did not get the memo that we have notes and we have class today, so she's going to pass out the notes if you guys can get the notes. Not everybody might get notes today just because I didn't think all these people were coming. Please don't throw my stuff on the list. That's fair.
Let's do it.
So, you guys, are you guys with me? Yeah. Try to concentrate. Is everybody with me? Everybody with me? Yes. I'll wait.
Sorry about that.
Everybody settle down? Alright, you guys, this is, the second portion of Matthew. There was a first portion that was done. Just to address it, yes, I'm teaching the second part. I'm capable. People were surprised. You're the one? You? Yes, I'm teaching this class, so don't ask me again. I'm getting offended by it. Secondly, we did the prayer, and for those of you guys who's the first time here, you're like, what's happening? That's called the creed, is the prayer that we're doing. She's going to email everybody this prayer that we're doing. I know young guys, young folks, these are young guys. We make fun of them all the time. It's okay. These ones over here. And so the creed that you guys are used to is a different version, right?
Yeah.
Try to pray along. Please hold it. Don't go on. Are you guys with me? Are you guys with me? Everybody with me? You got to concentrate because we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, right? Make sense? Yes? Yes? So make sure that, I can't read it now. Make sure that you get the creed, you study it, and it's very important that you guys memorize it as well because this is the creed. We just got out of the class of what? Those of you guys who were in the previous class. We learned about the creed and what it means. The creed is what we believe in. We can't say we're Christians and we have faith if we don't know what we believe in. That's what the creed is all about. We learned that in the previous class. This class is about Matthew. Today we will do the introduction. And next week we'll get into chapter 9, which is where we stopped, I believe, right? So chapter 9 is where we're going to start next week. Today we're going to do the introduction. Can I have the syllabus real quick? We're not gonna spend too much time on the syllabus. Look at it, study it. The whole point is, number one, you need to read the chapters. We're covering chapter 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 4 chapters. And it's gonna take us, I think, 3 months to cover it, or 4 months or something like that. 1 chapter a month is what we're doing. And that's because you told me to shorten it. I was forced to do it this way. But the whole point is, take the time to read it. It's 4 chapters, right? Yeah, we're going to look at it in detail here, and that's the whole point of doing the commentary of Matthew. But you have to get in the habit of reading your Bible. And that's the whole point of this class, is to understand the Bible a little bit more. Yeah, we're just looking at Matthew, and even a small portion of Matthew. But if we're not going home and doing our part, this class is not going to do anything. 50 minutes, 1 hour, whatever, a week is not gonna do anything. The whole point of us learning is to change our life and get closer to Christ, right? And if we want to do that, we got to put in the work. Remember last week, those of you guys who were in the service class, we talked about seed, planting your seed, right? In order to plant your seed, you got to put in the work in order to get your fruits. And unless we do that, we won't have any seed. I'm sorry, I'm too loud. All right. So, for this class, there's a lot of things that we're going to talk about. I can't stop every single time and talk about things that we've already covered. And yes, for the new members, I get it. There's a lot of stuff to cover. I'm going to try to slow down as much as possible. But things like the 5 pillars of mystery, the 7 sacraments of the church, these things should be kind of regular, especially those of you guys who've been around for a while, right? So these things should be kind of automatic. If you guys have never heard of it, it's like the 5 what and the 7 who, then it's okay. That's fine. You don't know. That's not embarrassing. Just get the notes and you try to review it on your own. Yeah, we'll cover it another day. But it requires some effort on your part to move forward, right? So everything just can't be, given to you all the time. The resources are there, but you got to ask for it and say, hey, you know what? I saw on the prerequisites it says you got to know the 5 pillars of mystery. Meaning, there are certain parts where we're going to talk about, for example, Christ's baptism. I think we already passed it. We can't get into the theology of baptism because we already discovered it. So we're kind of mentioning it and passing off. Does that make sense? And so on and so forth. So it's important that you guys understand that. Required text, this is the Bible. If you guys don't have the Bible, it's a problem. Second is, this is called a commentary. There's different versions of commentaries. It's important to understand this is the commentary that's mostly used by people like who are reading English. This is the commentary that's used. Understand, this is not our commentary. This is not the Ethiopian Orthodox Tohado commentary. So in here, there's a lot of, not a lot, but there are things which are not in line with the Ethiopian Orthodox Tohado faith. It's important to understand it. And the reason why I say it is because they see Orthodox, I'm Orthodox, and they say study Bible. I'm studying the Bible. And then they take this and they say 100% of it is true. But it's not. There's certain things that we've got to be cautious about. So just, if you have this Bible, more power to you. Good. If you're reading, good. Just understand that not every single thing is aligned within our church. Just know that and have that in the back of your mind. If you can, especially if you read Amharic, don't be scared to open up the commentary and look at it, right? It's not gonna hurt you, right? Just look at it, kind of review it. If you can read Amharic, if you don't, that's okay too. It's not bad, but it's just something good to have on your with you. Course requirements: bring your notebook, jot some stuff down. I'm giving you the notes, like the main notes that I'm giving you, but you might want other things that I'm saying in there that you want to jot down. If the paper is enough, that's fine. I'm just giving it to you. Course objectives: we're going to learn the 3 chapters. We're going to learn, so the class will be broken up into two kind of sections, right? And we're going to move along together, but we're going to try to separate it into 2 portions. One is theological, meaning we're going to try to understand the commentary, the deep, like the doctrine of Matthew and what's in it in terms of the commentary that's within it. And the second thing is we're going to take that commentary, we're going to apply it to our spiritual life. It doesn't matter how much you know the Bible. You can memorize the entire Bible, but if it's not helping you in your spiritual life, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So the whole point of this class, and the reason why I'm so excited about it is, we're trying something new. It's not all knowledge, and we still have the knowledge, but we're kind of adding the spiritual essence of it. Because it doesn't matter if we've studied everything there's to study. If our spiritual life is still not where it needs to be, then we don't have anything going on. I'm going to skip ahead, but essentially how this class is going to work is, there's going to be, without including today, because today's the intro, there's going to be 3 lectures, and then on the 4th week is going to be a discussion. 3 lectures, discussion. 3 lectures, discussion. Each lecture will be about a particular topic within the chapter that we're surveying. And then after that, at the end, if you guys have any questions, we'll take questions. But at the end of it, and if you see week 1, at the end of it, there's a reflection section. That's your homework. You have homework. Yes, it's a course. It's a class. We're inside of a classroom. So you guys are going to have homework to go and reflect on these questions. These questions are designed to help you get stronger in your spiritual life. They're not designed to test your knowledge. We're going to have an exam for that. Don't worry. Like, we have that set. There will be a full-blown exam. But those of you guys who took my exam, are my exams hard?
Yes.
Have you studied for it? Have you studied for it?
Yes.
The average is like 100. That's the average.
What?
Yeah.
No,
I'm
pretty sure it was like 47.
Someone didn't study. Look, if you come into the classroom without studying, I promise you will fail. That's as easy as that. If you don't study, you're going to fail the exam, right? If you fail, that means you're not getting to heaven. No, but that means you didn't study, right? But it's a good exercise. I remember, I'm not going to mention names, but Kada once, when he came, he failed. And it was interesting for him because that was kind of a wake-up call that he needed to take the class seriously. Now you guys see where Alab is, right? Well, he's not here. That's a bad example. That's a bad example. But no, he's teaching now, though, right? Like, so he's one of the people that we're following because it was a wake-up call for him. He couldn't put anything down, and he came up to me. He was like, this is a wake-up call, and it should be. So the exams are designed to test you. What did you do? We're going to spend 3-4 months of your life, of your time. We came here, sacrificed a lot of stuff. Not you. You probably didn't have anything to do. But most people did, right? Most people have a lot of stuff to do, right? Came from far, far away in order to learn something, so learn something. You know, and then the exam is designed in a way to help you see what you took away from the class. Let me say this too. After the classes are finished, right? After the classes are finished, a year from now, you should review the class notes. The reason why you're receiving class notes is not so you look at it and throw it away. The whole point is, like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you keep reviewing it, and that stuff will kind of be stuck in your brain. Everything that you're going to learn throughout this period, I don't expect you to memorize it and be there forever. But even if you guys go back into the 5 pillars, the 7 sacraments, who is Jesus, all these courses that we learned, right? How much of that material have you guys really held? That's a question for you guys. Not literally, but think about it. So I'm not going to go over the specifics. Week 19 will be the final. Week 19 is the final. Then there's the breakup. This is how you get graded. Attendances. She's taking attendance. If you don't come, that's 10%. Class discussions, like I said, once every 4 weeks, we're going to have class discussions about spiritual. Come to those. Those are very, very important. Reflections, like I said, every week, you'll be, like next week, I want you guys to do your reflection and hand it in to me. Like, I want a piece of paper with your reflection every week.
Next week?
Yeah.
Is there a format?
There's a question.
Where?
Oh, no, week one. Week one? What do you want to get? Thank you. Someone is paying attention. One person out of 30. Not too bad. What do you want to get out of this class, both intellectually and spiritually?
At the end of week one, guys.
It's okay. We're gonna
I
do
was
this.
just confused.
Okay. Let's try this again. There's a syllabus, and there's a week one note. We're looking at week one note.
So what if people didn't get?
Everybody fails. Do they have their email on there?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna email you the class notes as well. And yeah. Are you guys with me? 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 Are you guys with me?
Y'all.
No, they're not. Okay. So these are the reflections. It should be 1 page. It should be 1 page. Single spaced, 10-point font. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
Double spaced, single. Like the whole point is not for you. Like again, there is no right or wrong, right? Like if you write, it's for you. It's not for me. I promise it's for you. If you say, I want to get good things intellectually, you can write that down. I mean, that's for you. But are you really thinking about it? Are you really reflecting? Right? Why is it hard to read the Bible? It is hard because it is hard. Right? Okay. You can do that. But it's not for me. You guys are grown enough to understand that this is for you in order to help you understand. If you could diagnose the problem, you could find a solution. I just came up with that right now. That was pretty bad. I didn't even know.
What did you say?
Just came out.
If you can diagnose the problem,
I don't
you
wanna mess it
can
up.
solve the problem somewhere.
If you can not.
Oh, that's not what he said?
Honestly, and those of you guys who took the class before know, I know you dogged me last time, but if you work, you'll get an A. It's that simple. If you pay attention, you take your notes, study, and you get an A. I mean, a lot of people score above 100%, honestly. If you don't study, you won't.
Thank you, please.
Huh?
What Jesus on
Jesus is...
Multiple choice, good luck. If you guys have any questions, I put my number here, but please don't call me. I have a lot of stuff to do. Call this one. All right.
You really put your number?
Okay. Week one. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Week one.
Yeah.
All right. The Holy Bible. Are you guys with me?
Yes.
The Holy Bible. Without looking at your notes. Somebody wrote it. Without looking. What's the Bible about? What's the Bible about? Who is the Bible about?
Christians.
Johns, whatever. These guys were in my class, so they cheated. That's how they know the answer. The Bible is about you, right? The Bible is about you. It's about how you got saved. Are you guys with me? Are you guys with me? The Bible is about how you got saved, you personally, right? And think about that. That's a very powerful concept because the Bible has been around for about 2,000 years now, right? So now we have people all across the world reading this book. From different backgrounds, from a farmer to a rap artist, to a business leader, to our priest in Gadam somewhere. They're all quoting this Bible, and they're reading it, and it's about you. Think about that. They were reading it thousands of years ago. They're reading it today. People who are computer savvy are reading it. People who had nothing to hold on to, they were reading it. And the book is about you. And for nothing else, you should be curious to say what's in it. What is in it that makes all these people so interested that they want to read what's inside this book? It's been quoted so many times by different type of people, and it has affected so many people by reading this holy book. So just by that, we should be curious enough to say, what is inside this book? What is inside this book? The general breakdown of the Bible is the Old Testament is how you got sick, New Testament is how you got healed. Old Testament, we were sick, New Testament, we were healed. That's the story. That's the story of the Bible. Everything is specific. Everything is the detail. So our job is to understand how we got healed and why we got sick. How we got healed and how we got sick. Now, this holy book was written in about 1,500 year span of various people with different backgrounds. From a king to a farmer to like educated people to laymen to prophets. Different people wrote this book, but they were all inspired by the Holy Spirit. It's important to understand that the Bible, like God does not need a Bible. A lot of people think that Bible is for God, and it's not. God doesn't need a reminder about how he saved us. He wrote this book through these people, right? In order to remind us, this is your story. This is how you got saved. Read it, and he gave it to us. It's a gift that we received. It's a gift that we received. And because these people were inspired by the Holy Spirit himself, each and every single word has a meaning behind it. It wasn't just written just to be written. It's not just like, this word sounds good. There's a meaning behind it. That's why within our church, we spend a lot of time looking at every single word. It matters. Every single word matters. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 16 through 17. How can you read it, please?
All scripture is God-breathed and is useful for teaching, debunking, correcting, and training in the righteousness, so that the servant of God may be thoroughly equipped for every good work.
It says all scripture, right? Not some scripture, but all scripture. And it's important to understand that because when you read the Bible, you need to approach it with a sense of reverence, with a sense of respect. When you pick it up, you got to understand inside this word is the word of God. Inside this word is the story of how we got saved. And the author is the Holy Spirit. So because of that, we got to approach it with respect. Not just, okay, let me read the Bible just to get it over with. Every single word matters, so I'm going to prove it to you. For example, we did this exercise before, if you guys remember. I just gave you guys all this talk about how life-changing Matthew is, right? Or the Bible in general, right? If we went into the Gospel of Matthew chapter 1, you open it up, so you're ready. Let's say you're a young kid, ready to read the Bible, for your life to be changed. And you're like, today is it. Today, I'm going to read the Bible. Are you guys with me? You say, today, I'm going to go home and read the Bible, and I've heard that this book is going to change my life. So you go to Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. You start to read. This is a record of the ancestors of Jesus the Messiah, a descendant of David and of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac. Isaac was the father of Jacob. Jacob was the father of Judah and his brothers. Judah was the father of Perez and Zerah, whose mother was Tamar. Perez was the father of his, so on and so forth. Has your life changed yet?
Yep.
was the father of King David. David was the father of Solomon, whose mother was Bathsheba, the widow of Uriah. Are you still like, okay, you keep going, and your life is still not changed, you feel like. But that verse, I mean, there's a lot of things I'm skipping. But if you look at that verse, for example, there's a lot of things packed inside of it. There's a lot of things packed inside of it. We don't realize it. We're just running because we think this is just names. And I want to get to the good stuff, right? I want to get to this good stuff. But within that verse, the gospel is being taught. Just within that verse. I'm going to read it again. David was the father of Solomon, whose mother was Bathsheba, the widow of Uriah. Tell me the story of Bathsheba.
Oh, she's, so David sent a soldier away, and he saw her, he fancied her, and he ended up, he found her attractive, and he had her brought over, and then she ended up being pregnant, even though that was the wife of his best man, or best soldier.
Yeah, he was a soldier. And then, the kid died, but he had another child with her, who was? Solomon. This is the story of Bathsheba. This is what Matthew is writing on chapter 6, or verse 6. Why would he do that? Why would he do that? Now, the point of the genealogy, as you guys have learned before, is to tell us where Jesus came from, his ancestors, to tell us, and we're going to see that in a second, but it's to tell us who Jesus is, because they were told that the Messiah, the promised Messiah in the Old Testament, that's why in the prerequisite I said, you guys have to have a little background about the Old Testament, because we can't spend every single, step talking about it. But in the Old Testament, they were given prophecies that the Messiah would come, would be the child of Abraham, the child of David, and so on and so forth. So this is the genealogy to prove that. But inside of that, he was sure to say that David was married to Bathsheba, who is married to Uriah. Why would he do that? Because Matthew is writing to the Jews. The Jews are very, they boast about their ancestors. I am a descendant of David, they say. Like they depend on it, right? So he's telling them, before you kind of boast too much, realize that he committed adultery, that he committed murder. When he's saying her name, these are the things that he's trying to pop into their head. And Jesus Christ, our Savior, is a descendant of him. As a descendant of him. So he came to save not righteous people, but even sinners, like us. He came to save us, all of us. This is big. Within this verse, even if you guys don't understand everything that I just said, because it's like I told you, it's a lot of stuff that's packed. Understand that this one verse has so many stuff within it. We may not understand it. But the whole point that I'm trying to do with this little exercise is, when you read the Bible, understand that it's packed. Understand that you have to approach it with reverence. Not just like reading through it just to finish the verse. Like I said, we're reviewing 4 chapters, but those 4 chapters need to be like really, really read. Like each and every single word, carefully. Why is it this way? Why is it that way? Why did it do this? Why did it do that? Right? Because within it, there's a lot of messages that we may miss. Let's keep going. So that fill in the blank as hope and faith. How a devout man like King David was forgiven even though he committed a wicked sin. It should give us hope and faith to know that if somebody like David was forgiven, and if Jesus came to die for a man like David who committed adultery and murder, then of course we also have that grace. We can receive the gift even though we don't deserve it. Even though we don't deserve it, we can have his grace. Let's keep going. And faith. Hope and faith.
What was the first blank?
The first one is hope and faith.
No. There's that. That's the second one.
First.
Oh, the first one is sin. He saved you from a sickness called sin. Somebody will think.
Or you're not clear.
standing up. That was a weak one. All right, you guys, you got this one. You guys, listen. Matthew, in a very subtle way, is reminding them that even their idol was a sinner. Furthermore, we received God's grace not because we deserved it, but because God gave it to us. Again, we got it because God gave it. It is a gift that He gave us. It is a gift that He gave us. We can do an entire class just on that, but we won't. 5:12.
5:12.
5:12.
5:12.
Say.
What's going on?
Let's say. Let's say.
Oh, the other.
We're done with that class. Let's go home.
Five books.
I definitely did. Don't talk to me, Papa. Are you guys with me? They look so confused over here. I'm about to review it right now. She's like, oh my God, I forgot what's going to happen now. We're going to review it. All right, you guys. You got to know how to read your Bible. You have to know how to read the Bible. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But here's the thing. People, again, say, I'm going to change my life. And then they go into the book of Leviticus. I promise you, you're not going to get a good read reading Leviticus. It's just not going to happen. Right? Or a lot of young folks, when I talk about reading the Bible and stuff, kids raise their hand and say, but in Revelation it says, Revelation is a revelation. This is not the time to say, like, when you're just getting into Christianity, you're talking about you want to have a strong relationship with Christ. Revelation is not the way to go. Like, 4 heads, 4 beasts, and this and that, and man with the head of a lion and stuff. What are you going to get out of that? When you're ready, right? What did St. Paul say? Those who deserve milk, give them milk. Those who deserve harder things, give them harder things. Right now, we're milk. If we haven't read the Bible, if we haven't really understood it, oh no, I get it. Those who want churro, give them churro. But at a young age, spiritually, we have to read the stuff, like the basic things, right? Like, if we don't know who Peter is, it's not embarrassing. I'm not saying this to embarrass anybody, but that's kind of the first things that like, when we talk about salvation, like, saved from what, right? Like, these are basic things that we need to understand. Like, Christ died for me. How so? Like, I wasn't even born there. You know what I mean? Like, so these basic things, once we understand it, then we can get into, deeper and deeper and deeper and start kind of examining these things that make sense. I'm not saying Revelation is a book you should never read. It's just a book that you need to really be careful about, and a lot of our fathers took their time before they got there. So, having said that, you need to understand how the Bible is written. It's not written like an order. It's not like if you start in Genesis, Genesis is the beginning, but when you get to Revelation, it's not like that's when the crucifixion of Christ is. Like, that's not how it works. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. If it's Abiyuson, and you're like, I'm going to read the Bible, and again, you go into Leviticus, like, Jesus died for my sins, and you're, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to help. It's not going to help, right? So you got to understand how the Bible is broken up. Now, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church has 81 books. It actually has more than that, but that's kind of the numbering system that we use. It has 81 books. You guys understand that the Holy Bible has several books within it. You guys understand that, right? You guys understand that? Okay. So now the Catholic Church has, what's 66 plus 7? 72, 73 books. 73 books. The Universal Bible, and this is also what it is. This is the one that the Catholics use, not the commentary, but the number of books and everything like that. That's what the Catholics use. And this is prepared by the Eastern Orthodox. We use 81 books. 81 books. And the Universal Bible, which is like the Bible you can buy online and stuff like that, there's 66 books. 66 books, and you guys need to know this. And the Old Testament, there's 39. In the New Testament, there is 27. You guys need to know this, like, really, really fast, right? Because it's going to help you out. When you're reading the Bible, you want to understand it. And depending on, and we're going to talk about this, depending on what you want to get out of the Bible, the way you approach the Bible needs to be different. So in the Old Testament, there's 39 books. In the New, there's 27. I'm going really, really fast because most of this stuff, we already reviewed it. Right? We already reviewed it. I understand there are the newcomers. Like I said, we're going to take time and go slowly about these things, but this is kind of not the main class. The main class is going to start next week. Today's kind of the intro. So, in the 39 books, it's broken up into 5.
12.
Everybody. She said 5, 11, 6, 12. Everybody say it with me. 5, 12, 5, 5, 12.
5, 12, 5, 5, 12.
5, 12, 5, 5, 12.
5, 12, 5, 5, 12.
If you guys remember that, I promise you, your life. The New Testament is not catchy. It's not catchy. 4, 1, 14, 7, 1.
I don't know.
We will get into the new. All right, let's look at the old. 5, 12, 5, 5, 12.
5, 12, 5, 5, 12.
All right. What?
Oh my God,
She's talking nonsense.
She does that.
Just
She does
continue.
that.
Please.
She just created a math equation. She was
She
like
does that.
7 times. What did you do? I forgot.
Don't just you're wasting
No. Let's keep going. 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 You guys ready? You guys ready? You guys ready? 5, 12, 5, 5, 12. This is how this is.
Universal version instead of the one our church uses.
Because this is the one that you have access to the most, and chances are, even if you want to use a church that we have, you're not going to get like an entire book of the 81 books. Like you could, for example, dedicating itself is a book on its own in the New Testament. Most of them, especially in English, you're not going to find that in one book. You might find it in Amharic. So these are kind of separate books that are, found. So this is the easiest way to do it. What? Somebody said something. Okay, 5, 12, 5, 5, 12. So the first 5 books is called the Book of Law. It kind of sets the tone for what's about to happen in the rest of the Bible, right? This is when man falls. This is the law that's set. So when I'm talking about the law, this is the law of man kind of sinning and falling behind. This is the 10 Commandments. This is everything in Leviticus. Like when we talk about in the Old Testament, it says don't do this and don't do that. Like a lot of this stuff is written in the book of the law. That's Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy, right? Or Zedagim repeats the first 4 chapters. It's kind of doing a summary. It's doing a summary. You guys need to understand this again because when you read it, it kind of makes sense. If you know how the breakup is, then you know how to approach those sections. And that's called the Book of Law. The next 12 books is called the Book of History. This is when they go into the Promised Land after 40 years of wandering around in the desert. This is your story about Samson. This is the story of Samuel, David, King Solomon, and all these stories, Aster, all these stories that we talk about. These 12 books are called the Book of History. That's Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st, 2nd Samuel, 1st, 2nd Kings, and then you get to 1st, 2nd Chronicles. It starts to summarize what happened in 1st, 2nd Samuel, 1st, 2nd Kings. Again, I'm giving you a lot of dry material, but it is stuff that's going to really, really help you read the Bible. Right? So 1st, 2nd Chronicles summarizes, yes sir.
Are all like 5, 12, 5, 12, is that like all in order? Like 5 books of the law?
Yeah, it's right in order. That's why I love it.
Okay.
It's in order. That's why it works good and it helps you memorize it. Yeah. And then after that, after the 12 books of history, you get into the 5 books of poetry. The 5 books of poetry in order. Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes. I hope I said that right. I said it right? Woo! On a roll. And Songs of Solomon. So these are the 5 poetry. They're book of poetry. They're not historical books. Even the book of Job, do you guys know, is a book of poetry. So it's not meant to be read in a historical way. It's like a lot of people know the basic story of Job, right? He's sick, then he wasn't sick no more. The basic stuff, right? That's the basic stuff. There's like 44, 45 chapters within that book. The main chunk is 3 of his friends having a conversation about why he got sick. And it's kind of like a prayer, you know. And it's, they're having a discourse, but it's supposed to be read the same kind of mindset as we read the book of Psalms. We need like the same kind of attitude when we read Psalms is the way we approach John. The same type of attitude we approach Psalm is kind of the same attitude we have with Proverbs. For example, you don't go into Proverbs trying to learn what King David did. Like, that's not the point of Proverbs. The point of Proverbs is to get, like, advice. So the whole point, are you guys with me? Are you guys with me? So in the book of Proverbs, the whole point of you is to read that and really change your mind. It's giving you good advice, right? So then you get into the book of Ecclesiastes, same thing. Songs of Solomon is also a book of poetry. A lot of people read this book and get confused because it seems like a boyfriend and girlfriend writing to one another. It is beautiful. It really is beautiful. But it's not. It's about Christ and the church. It's about the Virgin Mary. There's a lot of poetic stuff written in there in terms of metaphors. But if you think it's a historical book, you're going to make that error every single time. This is why it is important that you guys understand what section it is in and how we need to approach that book. Does that make sense? Then the next books, so we have 5, 12, 5, and then 5, right? So these are the 5 major prophets. Why do they call them major?
Because they're very major.
They wrote more. It's not because they're more important. It's just because they wrote more. Isaiah, Jeremiah, and then Jeremiah wrote 2 books, Lamentations of Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Hosea, and Daniel, right? So these are the 5 major prophets. Did I say that? Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, and Daniel. There's no Hosea. I know Hosea is a minor prophet. Okay. So, and then you have the 12 minor prophets, and they're called minor because
They didn't write as much.
they wrote less. But these are prophets, meaning a lot of the stuff that's written within them is a prophecy. Makes sense, right? So you don't read this book just like you read the book of history, where it's kind of just telling you what took place. That's the purpose of the book of history. It's not telling you a prophecy. Yes, there's like actions that foreshadow what's about to happen in the New Testament. There are certain things that we can take. But the whole point is just telling you what happened, what occurred. Yes?
Why is it in the Old Testament books of prophets and the New Testament is book of prophecy?
There's nothing deep behind that.
No, did they prophesy different things, or is it just Jesus?
No. So the Revelation is the one book that we have yet to understand because it hasn't happened, right? The same way that before Christ came, all the Jews used to kind of struggle with the book of like Isaiah and stuff like that. That's how we approach the Revelation because we haven't seen it. Not everything that's written in the Old Testament in the book of prophets, right, is fulfilled. By the way, there's still things in there that are still not fulfilled that we're still waiting for.
But there aren't things like that are as hard to understand as like
Revelation.
Yeah,
I agree. Said that.
No, you said like the reason we don't understand it because it hasn't happened and not because of the context.
Huh?
So like the content of, even if we didn't understand the book, like the prophecies from the Old Testament, it was like the God will come, he will save you, as opposed to like Revelation, there's like a head, like a...
Because that's not quite true. If you see Daniel, there's a lot of complex stuff in there. For example, the book of Daniel, there's a lot of complex, like the content in itself is very, very complex. So, and that was a dream as well. Daniel's was a dream as well, just like John's was. So moving on. So this is kind of breakdown of the Old Testament. Everybody with me? Everybody with me? Quickly. The New Testament. Let's look at the New Testament. The New Testament. In the New Testament, we have the breakdown of the 4 Gospels, and that's a good summary of it. It's telling us the life of Christ Jesus. In fact, John summarized it pretty well. He said, the purpose of the Gospels is to tell us who Jesus is, and by telling us, we may believe in him. Right? So it's not just to tell us, hey, you want to hear a cool story? But no, we get to hear the story, and then we get to believe in it. So that's the purpose of the Gospels. There's one book of history, and it's called the Book of Acts. Really read it. It's a beautiful read. It's a beautiful read for anybody. Like, I pick on the Leviticus a lot because it requires a lot of like theology in order to appreciate that book. Anybody can read it, but in order to really appreciate it, you need a lot of theology in order to appreciate books like Revelation and books like Leviticus, right? But a book like the Book of Acts, you could read it today and you'd be like, wow, that's amazing. You could read it today and it's amazing. Same thing with any of the Gospels. I mean, it just changes their life. So, what's the book of Acts about? It's the history of how the church came about, essentially. First 12 chapters talks about Peter and his mission when the church was being instituted. The last 14, 15, I don't know how many chapters there are in the book of Acts, 26, something like that, 24, 26. Anyways, 27?
What?
In the book of Acts?
28.
It doesn't matter. So, yeah, I mean, you know. So the rest is talking about the work that the book of, or Paul was doing in his missions, his 3 main missions that he went on. And then, what do we have? We have 14 epistles of Paul. This is kind of letters that Paul wrote to specific churches. It's very important to understand that, because before you read these epistles, like the book of Romans and 1 Corinthians and 2 Corinthians and stuff, you need to research that city, right? Like the book of Romans, you need to research what was taking place in Rome at a particular time in order to understand the content of what he's talking about, right? Like, that's the problem. It's like we pick up the Bible and we think it applies everywhere, every single time. No, it doesn't, because he was addressing a particular problem in that area. Yes, there are certain things that still apply to us, but there are certain things that were very, very specific to that location. And that's why he's speaking the way that he's speaking about. And it's important to understand that. Same thing. And then after the 14 epistles of Paul, we have the 7 written by other people like Peter, John, Judas. Who am I forgetting? I think that's about it. I already said Peter. Don't you correct me. James. I said that too. No, I said it. Again, you need to research what was taking place at the time. For example, Judas only has 1 chapter, right? And I'm not saying the same one as the one who betrayed Jesus. This is a different one, the brother of Jesus, as it calls him. He was trying to write something else, and then there was a huge problem that occurred. He was like, you know what? I wanted to write about something else, but there's a huge problem that's happening that I need to address it. And that's what that one chapter is about. So again, you guys need to understand the history of what's happening at that particular time before you pick it up and you start to read it. It's very, very, very important you guys do that. And that's why a lot of times people have like debates, especially about Paul, because they don't understand who he's writing to. See, when you understand who he's writing to, then you will understand. Right, David? Yeah. All right. Yeah, Stephen was on point. Y'all trading. Y'all trading. But this is a good example. Notice how we're talking to see you. We're saying good job for not sleeping because he usually sleeps. You know? So we're giving him credit. So just the words of how we're saying it matters to who I'm talking to, right? I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't give.
That is actually really good.
Thank you. That was a pretty good one. I'm not going to give somebody like this guy credit for staying awake because he stays awake all the time. You want that? This is amazing. So, let's keep going. Then, the last book is the book of prophecy. This is the only prophecy you have in the New Testament. Or the book of prophecy, right? It's the book of Revelation. So, I'm going to try to wrap up as fast as possible. There's different ways to read the Bible. Having said that, this is the breakdown of the Bible. You guys understand how it's broken up. You guys are smart now. So you know where to pick up, where to go, and how to read it. Now, there's different ways to read the Bible. You could read it for spiritual reasons, for theological reasons, intellectual reasons, historical reasons. You could read it for many different things, even things that are in the list in here. So which version do you pick up? Most common question ever. Which version do we pick up? Well, it depends. Why are you reading the Bible? If you're reading it for spiritual reasons, please be honest. You understand, thy shall thy die. Amen, hallelujah. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Honestly, it's not about the most ancient language you can find and read it in that language if you're trying to get connected with Christ. It's not about that. It's about you understanding what you're saying. I don't care what version it is, because you need to understand what it's about. You're not looking for, remember I said every single word has meaning, and there's theology behind it, there's doctrine behind it. But when you're talking about your spiritual life, you need to understand. You just need to understand it. Whatever that means, you just need to understand it. When you're trying to do a prayer, you need to pray in a way that you can communicate with him effectively. If you're trying to do it for theological reasons, then, so spiritual approach requires a version you understand. A version you understand. Theological reasons, I got bad news. English is just not going to cut it if you're serious about theology. Like, the language is just not good enough. That's not me saying it like, this is the only language. That's not where I'm coming from. If you go to any theology program that has standards, you learn Greek, Hebrew, even German, Latin, and good is also a very strong language. But the English language is just not strong enough, right? A quick proof of this, I love this example. You guys heard of it a lot. You've been in my class before. It's Genesis chapter 11, verse 7. Right? Genesis chapter 11, verse 7. What happened in Genesis chapter 11, 7? When they're building the Tower of Babel, right? So in the Tower of Babel, when they were building it, God said, let us go down, and mess up the language. It said, let us go down, and there and confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech, right? Let us go down. Let us go down. What does let us mean? I'm talking, and then I'm talking to how many people? At least how many? At least one?
At least one.
There's some pointers that are struggling. Who is what?
At least
At least one other person, right? This is turning into an English class. I wasn't even expecting it. I'm not the right person for English stuff. My grammar is not the best thing. Okay. So we're talking about come, let us. Meaning, I am talking, and then there's at least one other person. So there's at least two people total. Makes sense, right? Makes sense, right? And the Amaranya says, Nu nurad. Andu nagar እንዳይሰማ ቋንቋቸውን በዚያ እንደባልቀው. Thank you. Can we edit that part out? All right. Don't do that. Don't make me go into this. All right. So it says nu, right? When he's saying nu, there's a person speaking. At least how many people is he talking to? At least two. Is he talking to men or women? Well, yeah, it says nay if it's one, right? If it's one, it says nay. But if it's plural, we don't know, right? But we know there's at least two. Are you guys with me? In Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, it says, God said, let us create man in our image, right? Let us create man. This is the first indication that the Bible is giving us. We believe in a triune God, but we don't have the specific number of persons there are within the Godhead. And this is all Trinity stuff, right? It's all Trinity stuff. In Genesis chapter 11, we get a second clue as to what the formula of the Godhead looks like. In the Amharic version, we get a very good clue. We know there's at least three persons. The person speaking at least two other people, right? In the English version, how many? At least two. There's difference. Here, the only thing that I want you guys to think about is the fact that there's a difference. I'm not trying to teach you guys about the theology. If you don't understand the theology, like, that's okay. That's not the point of this exercise is how language matters. In the Ge'ez, it even tells you if the plurality are male or women. Right? It goes that specific. when we say language matters, we mean it. Because the how a word is interpreted can have various meanings. So it's important to understand that before we pick up the Bible. So if we're reading it for theological reasons, I'm telling you, the English is just not that good. The English is just too weak. That's why people say, like, you got to learn other languages. Languages like Greek, Hebrew, is another one. German is another one. Latin is another one. You see, so language is very important if you're reading it for theological reasons. Historical reasons. If you want to know who the father of Isaac was, you don't have to go and pick up an dem tahagidis matzahaf. You know what I mean? Just Google it. Honestly, like, just understand why you're reading it. If you're reading it for intellectual reasons, based on the subject, the type of version will change. Having said that, for example, there's different versions. Like the Amplified version, what it does is it takes like one word, like one Greek word, and it amplifies it. So it takes like 2-3 English words in order to describe that one Greek word that's being used. Amplified version, right? So then there's like all the other versions have like a goal that they want to do. That's why there's different versions out there. It's because they have a goal that they want to achieve. So read that goal. What is their purpose? What are they trying to achieve when they write it in that version, right? So based on that, get a book on the approach, on the type of approach that you want to do. Like if you want to be serious about theology, right? And of course, you know, none of us speak Greek. At least I don't think so. You know what I mean? Only one person speaks Giz in this room. So, I'm sorry. So, if we're serious about the theology, and we have to pick up an English version, that's very kind of serious about translating it the right way. Sometimes that's not the goal. The goal is not to translate it the right way. Sometimes the goal is to translate it in a way that's easy to read. It's designed, some of them are designed for young kids to read, right? So if you're serious about theology, maybe that version is not the best for you. If you're serious about prayer, pick up a version that you can understand. Make sense? All right. Breakdown of Matthew, real quick. So the Gospel of Matthew is one of the 3 synoptic Gospels. There are 3 synoptic Gospels within the New Testament. There's a Z in there.
I knew it.
There's a Z. Yeah, there's a silent Z.
No.
I'm in a classroom full of foreigners. The 2 Americans are laughing.
Are you laughing? Yes. Synoptic version.
Siri said there is no Z.
Gospels. It's one of the 3 synoptic Gospels. The 3 synoptic Gospels are Matthew, Mark, Luke. Get to know this. Like, you should know this, right? Matthew, Mark, Luke. Synoptic Gospel. You guys with me? Synoptic means like a summary. Like, they have kind of, are you guys with me? Is everybody with me? So the reason why they're called synoptic is, number one, because they write about similar events. If you read, especially Matthew and Mark, they write they're very similar. Luke is also very similar in that sense that they're writing darak wangel, like dry gospel, meaning it's straightforward what Christ did. Christ did this, Christ did that, Christ did this, Christ did that, right? So that's kind of the general gist of the 3 synoptic Gospels. John wants to highlight the divinity of Christ. That's kind of his angle when he's writing the Gospel. Same story, same events, but different angle. Kind of changes it up a little bit. And they all have their own specific angle, but because John's is very, very different, the way he approaches the Gospel is different. He's not just trying to tell us the events that occurred. He really wants to highlight the divinity. He wants to get into the theology. So he's not considered part of the Synoptic Gospels, but he is part of the 4 Gospels. It makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, according to the teachings of Ezekiel and Revelation, yes, we still talk about Revelations in this class. Each gospel has been assigned a specific symbol. And Matthew's symbol is Why is it a man? It's because he starts off the gospel by doing what? Genealogy. Why does he do the ancestry? We kind of mentioned it earlier.
So we over Christ.
So here's the thing. Matthew is Jew. He's a tax collector. Pause. First of all, whenever you hear the word tax,
And Jew.
whenever you hear a tax collector, it's usually in a bad way in the New Testament. The reason why it's in a bad way is not because Jesus hates the IRS. It's because back in the day, the tax collectors, they used to like bully people. You know what I mean? They used to go take their money, steal their money. They would like, this is why, again, like studying commentary in the Bible is very important, right? Because if you didn't know this stuff, you read, and then the tax collector, he sat with the tax collectors and they got mad. And when you're reading this, you're never going to understand what's wrong with that. You know what I mean? But now if you understand the history behind it, like, oh my gosh, he sat with the tax, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. It's like sitting down with pimps, just chilling with them. Like, what are you doing? This is a big, imagine if one of our priests was just chilling with a bunch of pimps. Like, oh my gosh. Really though, really, you see? You know why you're laughing? It's because you could relate to it. But when I see tax collector, okay, they were probably bad. No, they were really bad. Matthew was like that. He was an old generation pimp in that way. You see? No, really though. It was that. He was that kind of person though. You need to understand that. And Jesus picked him. He picked him to be part of the disciple. Again, within this story, we find grace. He's telling us, I will pick you. Not because you deserve it, but because I'm giving you a gift. If Matthew is picked, we can have hope. We can have hope. Each one of us. We can say, God will pick me too, even though I'm a sinner. Do you see the point?
Yeah.
Do you see the point? That's why you have to understand how bad a tax collector was. Not only was he a tax collector, he was also a Jew. Because he was a Jew, he knew what's the word I'm looking for? The culture of the Jew mentality. And the Jews were a lot like our parents' generation. Like, we're the best. That was kind of their attitude about everything. We're the best. And you ask them why we're the best? Because we're Jews. Why does that make you good? Oh, because we're the best. You know, and that was their answer. Do you know we're born from Abraham and David and this and that and this? And because the Old Testament says specifically that the Messiah, the King, the medicine that will save this world will be born from Abraham and David, we know that the Messiah that's going to come, that's going to be our brother. You see? We're related by blood, so he's going to come to save us. And then when Jesus died, he didn't do what they thought he was going to do. First of all, I don't want to get into the detail, but they thought he was going to be a king in this world. They've been kind of ruling themselves for many, many years. For the first time, they were being ruled by somebody else. So they were like, the Messiah has to come now. And the time was on point. It was like, any time he's going to come. So when he came, and everybody was hoping for him. They were like, maybe this is it. Maybe this is it. When he died, they were like, there's no way he could be it. Because he died. Because he was supposed to be a king. He was supposed to be a king. So now what Matthew's saying is, I promise you this is the Messiah, and I'm going to prove it to you. You know how he proved it to them? Remember, it says that the Messiah will come from Abraham and David. Here's the descendants of Jesus. Abraham begot so-and-so. Abraham begot so-and-so, whatever. And he gets down to Jesus. Like, you see the descendant? You see the descendant? It's him. It's the one that is written about. His main audience is the Jews. So he's using language and attitude and direction, the angle that he's coming from, is to kind of get into their head, understanding their culture. Makes sense, right? The other thing that they're very, very serious about is these prophecies that are written in the Old Testament have to be fulfilled. Right, David?
Yeah.
So, that's going to be kind of how the rest of the class is going to go. Oh, no, really? You're the only one in this room who's hot. Like, the only one.
Oh, thank you.
And the other thing that they're very serious about is they know that the prophecies within the Old Testament has to come true. They know this. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of prophecies within the Old Testament that's written about the Messiah. They know unless those prophecies come true, it will not happen. So Matthew, about those prophecies, and showed it to them. This is what he says. I'm giving you just a few examples. It says, so all this was done that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the Lord through the prophet. Matthew 1, chapter 22. That it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the Lord through the prophet. Matthew chapter 2, verse 15. Then was fulfilled what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet. Matthew chapter 2, verse 17. Just within the first 2 chapters, we have 3 examples. When Jesus does something, Matthew pauses and says, remember the prophet who wrote about this prophecy? It is fulfilled, hence, this is the Messiah. Remember the prophecy that says that Jesus would go here and do this? Remember that prophecy? Here, it is accomplished. Hence, he is the Messiah. So everything that he's doing, he's giving them clue. Because who is his main audience?
The Jews.
The Jews. She was so excited. She was like, I know this one. So because it is the Jews, the way that he's approaching it is in a way, are you guys with me? Are you guys with me? The way that he's approaching it is to get into their head and to help them understand this is the Messiah who came in this world. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Let's keep going. Yeah.
Like all the action, did it just happen to match up, or Jesus like knew what they prophesied and he just did it?
What?
Yeah.
Like Jesus just did actions and then they matched up with the prophecies, or like there were prophecies that he could have just read them.
And accomplished it? Well, what about his birth?
No, I understand that stuff. Like I'm saying, like each one that.
What about other people were going to do to him? Like he had no control over that. So I mean, these prophecies. I thought we talked about it before. That's why I kind of. No, we did, because the chances of when we talk about who is Jesus, we talked about it. The chances of these prophecies coming true, there's hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of prophecies. But there are like 300 main ones that are very easy to check on. Like 300. The chances of like 5 or 10 of them happening is like almost impossible. Just 5 or 10 of them happening. Jesus fulfilled all 300 of them. And even if you read it and came prepared to do all this stuff, you could explain maybe 1 or 2 prophecies, but these are specific prophecies that are written. Like, how do you explain them tearing away his garment when he was on the cross? Like, how do you explain that? How do you explain them beating him, spitting on him? If you read Isaiah chapter 50 something, right? If you just read the chapter without seeing Isaiah, you would think it was the gospel. The way it's written, it's scary stuff. Like after reading that, there's no way you can say he like designed all that. Like, you know, of course through his divinity, yeah, but not just by reading it, he just accomplished it. Like what's next on the list, you know? It wasn't like that at all. Then the breakdown of Matthew. I'm not gonna spend too much time on this. I'm not gonna spend too much time on this. Whenever you guys read any book within the Bible, are you guys with me?
Yeah.
You guys could Google anywhere, kind of like a short breakdown of how you should approach the gospel. Are you guys with me? Is everybody with me? Remember we said 5:12, 5:12?
Yeah.
Remember that? There's different breakdowns for a particular book as well. Like for each book, there's, for example, in the Orthodox Study Bible, if you guys go and look at it, there's different ways that it breaks it up. Like the first 5 chapters is to do this, the next 10 is to do this, whatever. And it helps you, again, remember parts of the gospel, right? 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 Okay, so this is kind of the breakup that I made, just for whatever. You guys could look at it. I'm not going to spend time talking about it. But look at it, and then if it helps you, use it. If not, use any form of break that you need. But the main things that you need to know is, in the first 5 chapters, because we already skipped that, this is kind of like the basic things that occurred, like the initial stuff, like his birth, his baptism. If you want to read about the birth of Jesus, do not go to Matthew chapter 26 and try to find it. It's not going to happen, right? Like if you want to read about the birth of Christ, where should we go? In the beginning. The crucifixion, near the end, right? So these are things like, it should be kind of obvious. His baptism, when he was tested in the wilderness, all this stuff is that happened earlier on, right? So this is stuff in the Gospel of Matthew that we should kind of be, these are kind of things that should jump out at us. We know where to search for. Then, the things that you need to know, the Sermon on the Mount. Sermon on the Mount. Where is that at? Without looking.
What?
5 through 7. This is stuff like you should know. Number one, you reviewed it. We're not going to review it again. But you should. Sermon on the Mount, 5 through 7. It should come like this. This, like, quick stuff. Because this is how you're going to break it up, right? There's stuff like, which improves, right? Like in the Old Testament, you were told not to do adultery, but I tell you, if you look at a person, even that is considered adultery. Remember that? All this stuff. The golden rule, like all this stuff that like, don't divorce and all this stuff that you guys know, like love is important and all this gospel stuff that you hear about is found in the Sermon on the Mount. That's why it's important, you guys, the best sermon ever given. The biggest sermon ever given. The sermon that's written about the most. We're about to wrap up. Now that the fan is here, I'm going to go on for another hour. I'm going to wrap up. And now, are you guys with me? I promise I'm about to wrap up unless you guys want to talk for another hour. I can do that. No problem. I'll start over. Don't do it. I'll start over. Look at the syllabus. What are we talking about? Sermon on the Mount. Okay, Sermon on the Mount. Other chapters that you guys should probably should jump out at you is Matthew 16. This is when he was talking to Peter. He's like, on you, I'll build my church. Remember that? Matthew 16. These are on this rock, exactly. On you, Peter. He was talking to Peter. Don't do this. Don't do this. Matthew 17 is another big one. Matthew 17 is what? Transfiguration. These are major holidays. They call the Transfiguration is part of one of the 9 major holidays within the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. You guys understand that, right? Right? Make sense? Make sense? Everybody with me? Everybody with me?
Yes.
I promise I'm about to wrap up. So you guys need to understand these chapters. Go into them. Read Matthew over and over and over and over again. This period when we were studying it. The whole point is for you guys to really, really get something out of it, right? So if you guys want to do that, please understand you have to take time to read it. I'm going to stop here and look for questions. But before I forget,
Questions from you guys.
From you guys. But
David,
hold on, you guys.
Oh my god. She said it. Oh my god. Check when I'm right here.
All right, we're good to go?
Yeah.
We ran out of water. Shit.
You want to move it in front of you? Yeah. You know, open your mouth.
Wow. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, you guys with me?
Yes.
You guys with me?
Yes.
So the reflection, again, do it for your own good. Next week, bring it in. Helena, I'm gonna need your help. Like, just record who's doing it, who's not. And if they miss one day, they cannot come back in.
you want a hard copy or email?
So don't come back. It was fun. It was fun. No, we're not gonna have it on tape. All right. You guys with me? Oh, but that is a good point. You see what she just did here? She said, I'm not going to be here next week. Let me know. Like,
I'm not going to be here.
no. Hold on. Here's the thing, you guys. Look, we've got to start taking this class seriously, right? And honestly, we've got to put, like, effort into this class. It takes a lot out of, like, to make this class, and to design the class, and to really, go for it. It's not for me, honestly. Because my job, I love teaching this class, not for you, but for me. Because I get to learn stuff. Like, you know what I mean? So whether people are here or not, it doesn't matter for me because I'm still learning. I'm making the class material. For you, though, if you don't take ownership of it and understand, like, I'm in a class and you take this class seriously, you miss a class, the next week is going to be easy to miss a class. And if you're not putting yourself accountable and saying, no, I'm going to come and I'm going to tell somebody, like, she just told somebody. She's taking accountability. She's like, no, so next time, you know, she's going to make sure to be updated, and I'm going to make sure to give her the class notes, and she's not going to miss as much. So it's important to say, if I'm not going to be here, let me tell, just courtesy. Out of courtesy, that people know. And things that I don't want to forget. I don't know if you guys noticed, it's a little warm in here.
Oh, no.
A little bit, not too much. Here's the thing. We want to change the room, right? Everybody's up for that?
Yes.
We think about moving, possibly Virginia. Really?
Yeah,
We talked about this. I was like,
are you serious?
We did talk about it, Joe. I can't lie.
we did though, you know.
But they're not even here. It's only like, what is it?
What happened?
Why do you think they're not here? Why do you think they're not here? Okay. That's fine. That's okay. We're just gonna do it in Virginia. That's okay. So,
I can't come.
all right. That's not the point, peoples. The point is this. Are you guys with me? Are you guys with me? We are trying to change the venue. I guess if we're not gonna do it in VA, we have to do it in DC. Like it's gonna be close by. That's the second option. But just be in tune, huh?
Why?
You're not hot?
It's not gonna be hot like this.
Yeah, it will. And it will be. But we need a bigger space. We need a bigger room and stuff like that. So it's like literally, remember the library that we went to? 5 minutes away. So we were trying to do it there. It's 5 minutes away. It's 5 minutes away. Not a problem. We're trying to figure that out, but just be in tune and make sure that you have a buddy. Make sure you have a buddy, like not in real life. I'm saying in this room. I need friends. No, in this room, make sure you have somebody to call and say, hey, what's going on? I missed last week. Like, you know, have somebody to check up with, study together. Like, take this class seriously. You know what I mean? Make sense? Make sense? What else? I had like a lot of stuff. Any questions? Any questions on stuff that I said? Yes, ma'am.
Are your notes online or something?
We're gonna email the notes, but blank. Yeah, it's gonna be blank.
Really? Can you
It is a challenge. You guys come. If I invite you guys in. Other questions? Other questions? Other questions? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. You know why I can't hear you? You know why I cannot hear you right now at this moment? You know why I'm not able to hear you? Go ahead.
I'm not.
The videos,
Come
yeah.
The video. Oh, the video from this
No.
class or like.
No.
No.
The videos
He
are
just
for
keeps
people
it
who are
in
not
his
here.
drawers.
Yeah, but
It's not.
Yeah.
no. So I'm serious. We're not releasing it.
And they keep his class. How do you?
Ask somebody else. Ask them. All right.
No, that's
Yeah.
not the contract you signed.
What is the contract?
any contract, can't you do? No, that's not.
I'm so serious.
The video.
Not the contract.
Yeah, so what we're gonna do is after the class ends, we're gonna release it. But
No, wait.
people are gonna take advantage and stay at home, and then I'm just gonna watch it. So we're not gonna do that.
No, we're not releasing it ever. You miss it, you miss it.
So what's the point of video game? No, but not taking.
We're not taking
Why are you
it.
so sad?
Get out.
Alright,
Keep going, keep going, keep going.
What about the videos that was before? Like, you guys have it? You can send it to the creative video.
So ask me, or ask Kalina, or ask somebody. If you guys want, like, there are courses that we taught, and you really, like, but how much can you really handle at the same time? Ask yourself, right? But luckily, you could go on your own pace and all that stuff because there's a video class, but I really strongly urge you guys to do it. Because we're adding up on top of it. We can't keep going backwards. But if you guys are going to take the other class at the same time, just make sure you set, time apart and you take it seriously. Go as soon as you want. Ask me questions whenever you guys have questions. Ask him. Ask you. Yeah. Definitely not David.
Thank you very much.
All right. Other questions? Other questions?